If you don't own the best production gear, expensive VSTs, or a fancy studio space, then you'll never make it as a producer. Yeah, a lot of people buy into that when they first take the leap into music production, but honestly, it couldn't be further from the truth. I've been producing full-time for over 4 years, working with some super talented producers, super talented artists, and let me tell you from experience, you don't need any of that fancy stuff to start making great music. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 things you actually need to kickstart your music production journey in 2024. I'm not here to waste your time with no fluff. These are the tools that will give you the best foundation for success as a musician. Now, there's no beating around the bush. You are going to have to invest a little bit. I'm going to save you hundreds and even thousands of dollars buying things that are nice to have, but just aren't essential in your path as a music producer. So before we dive in, let me just quickly address this and just give you a quick list of things that aren't essential, things that you've seen producers that are way further in their career are using that you think you might need as well, but you actually don't. So here's the list we got right here. I'm talking things like expensive VSTs and plugins, analog synths and hardware pedals, high-end studio monitors, a professional grade home studio space. Now, for sure, these things are nice to have, and it does make some elements of music creation more hands-on, like more immersive, but they're far from essential. In fact, a lot of them can just be a real money pit. Take synths, for example. Let's say you want a few. Okay, initially you're gonna have to spend at least $1,500 to get a half-decent synth. The more premium synths, like the Juno, are way more expensive than that anyway. But it's not just the synths. To really make them shine, you'll have to run them through a really solid preamp, so that's gonna set you back at least $500. Then in order to connect them all up and have them kind of accessible, you're gonna need a solid mixer, plus a whole bunch of cables to get everything plugged in and set up, which is going to set you back at least another grand. And then don't forget your synth rack, the thing that's going to be able to hold all these synths in place. That's going to be at least another $200 for a budget one. So when you add everything up, it's going to be a very hefty bill. So what's my point? Every nice to have thing as a producer comes with a rabbit hole of expenses that come with it. And one last thing, I'm going to skip over the obvious stuff like a DAW. This is strictly going to be about the core tools, the core long-term items that will just help and support you grow without breaking the bank. All right, let's dive into the first essential, which is a laptop or a PC. Now, this might seem obvious, but there's one key factor that I hear almost no one talking about when it comes to choosing the perfect engine for music production, and I'll touch on that in just a sec. Now, when it comes to choosing between a laptop or a PC, it completely depends on your situation. If you're on the move quite a lot and you're doing studio sessions and you just need to be more mobile, then a laptop's going to be the better option. Or if you're working from home most of the time, having people over to your studio space, recording and whatnot, then a PC is probably a good option as well. Me personally, I just roll with a laptop. It's compact, it's portable, and it also doubles as a second screen when I'm working from home. Now let's talk about specs. These are just like my minimum recommendations, just based off experience and having some old crappy laptops to upgrade into some ones that were just able to support everything that I'm doing as a producer. Number 1 is storage. Aim for at least 512 gigabytes. Number 2 is RAM. 8 gigabytes is a good starting point, but if you can swing it, then definitely upgrade to 16 or even 32 gigabytes of RAM. And no, you don't need to buy a whole new computer or a whole new laptop to do that. You can easily switch out and upgrade the RAM as and when you need to, and it's pretty affordable as well. Number 3 is the processor. An Intel i5 or any equivalent like the AMD Ryzen 5 will do the job just fine. That'll handle most heavy VSTs, and if you've got like a bunch of effects chains running in one project, then it'll normally deal with that just fine. And finally, number 4, and this is the game changer that I don't hear a lot of people mention, and it's the DDR value. I genuinely didn't even know this existed until I was shopping around doing some research for the laptop that I currently own. But basically what I found is this: the DDR, whether it's DDR4, 5, 6, etc., can often impact performance more than the actual processor itself. I know everyone says you need to have like the craziest processor, but if the DDR isn't up to spec, then that processor is just a shiny object on the list of specs that they're going to convince you to buy their laptop with. So for example, 2 laptops with the exact same processor, exact same RAM, exact same memory will perform a lot different if they have a different DDR value. So one with DDR4 is not going to perform as well as one with DDR5. Even a laptop with a lesser processor but a higher DDR value can come out on top in terms of performance. So make sure you're checking this spec. My recommendation, a DDR4 coupled with the specs that I mentioned earlier will work just fine. And if you guys are curious, my laptop that I'm using at the minute is the MSI Creator Z16. I'll just flash the specifications on the screen if you want to pause it and check it out. All right, let's move on to essential number 2. Your chair. This one isn't super related to music production, but trust me, this one is about your health. Yeah, I genuinely didn't know how much my old chair was affecting me until I made the switch. For the past year or so, I've just felt like I've got constant whiplash in my neck. Just feels like super stiff. And it actually turned out the chair was the main culprit. Now, as a producer, you're going to be glued to your seat, making music, producing, mixing, mastering, answering emails, making content. Just basically you're going to be sat here for a long period of time. All whilst kind of hunched over in weird positions. And for most people, you're sat in chairs that just offer zero support. Now, I'm almost 30, and all of those hours spent slouched over are really starting to catch up to me. So for those of you youngins that aren't having any discomfort yet, but are still using flimsy chairs, trust me, just upgrade now. You'll thank yourself later. And for you older guys, I know you're dealing with back pain. I know you've got neck issues as well. So just make the switch sooner rather than later. Think of it this way. You wouldn't play basketball in ballet shoes, so why would you produce for hours in a chair that isn't built for it? So my recommendation is that you invest in an ergonomic office chair, which actually leads me perfectly to the sponsor of this video, FlexiSpot. Yeah, they were kind enough to send me through their C7 premium ergonomic office chair. Yeah, I've been using it this last week, and honestly, it's been a game changer. And yeah, this C7 chair has got everything you need for long studio sessions. This backrest kind of locks at 93 degrees for office mode, just gives you really good back support. Down here, it's got this adaptive lumbar support, so you can really dial this in to support your lower back. I used to just throw this pillow back there in my old chair, and it just didn't cut it. It also has a relaxation mode where you got to pull out footrest, and then the backrest also reclines to 128 degrees, so yeah, it's just perfect for chilling too. Even the headrest adjusts to 5 different heights, so basically you can dial this thing in and get it just right. Now, yes, you are going to have to invest a little bit more than you would on a standard office chair, but just keep in mind that you're investing in your health here. But to be fair, make sure you hang around to the end, because I'm going to let you know how you can get a $50 discount on this chair. They also offer a 30-day return policy, and certain parts like the head and armrests come with a 10-year warranty on part replacements. Bigger sections like the seat and the mechanism underneath the chair have shorter warranties, like 3 years, but in my opinion, that's still pretty generous. But yeah, bottom line, having a good chair is essential for any producer. Our bodies are the most important thing that we have, so we have to look after them, and having a really good chair, an ergonomic chair, is going to keep you in check for the long haul. Now, before we jump to the third essential on this list, let's quickly talk about desks. Now, a good desk is great, but it's not a necessity when you're first starting out. Trust me, I've used everything from super cheap IKEA desks to some nice bougie studio desks. I've even just worked off a dinner table during COVID lockdown. And yeah, the bottom line is this: whilst a sturdy chair is essential for your health, there's no real specific desk that's going to magically improve your setup. But with that being said, let's move on to essential number 3, good headphones. Now, in a perfect world, we'd all have some real nice bougie studio monitors that would just be blasting out at full volume all day whilst we're cooking up beats. But realistically, that's not always an option. Most of us are going to be working around family, roommates, or even just neighbors that don't want to hear an 808 thumping all night long. Plus, studio monitor speakers aren't cheap. You'll also need to invest in stands for those speakers, buy acoustic treatment for the room so they actually sound decent. So let's keep things simple with a really solid pair of flat frequency studio headphones. Now, flat frequency headphones give you the most accurate sound without any extra bass boost or treble boost that most commercial headphones have pre-installed in them, which can mess up your mixes. It can be tempting to go for the commercial headphones, but starting with flat frequency headphones over time will help train your ear, and it'll just benefit you in the long run when it comes to mixing, mastering, and just general audio engineering. One other thing to consider with headphones is open back versus closed back. Open back headphones can let some sound leak out, but it also lets some of the ambient noise from the room leak in, which is really good if you want that more open feel. And then closed back keeps the sound nice and contained. It really allows you to kind of just hear all the detail in the music that you're making. I prefer closed back. It just allows me to hear every detail when I'm cooking up or when I'm mixing. So open back and closed back, it's just a decision you have to kind of make on your own. Then there's the ohm value, which basically affects how much power your headphones need. Low ohm headphones, so anything around 32 ohms, is great if you're just plugging straight into your laptop or your computer. And then you've got medium to high ohm values, which is around 80 to 250 ohms. And these are good for when you're plugging into an audio interface, because they've got built-in preamps that can supply more power to those headphones, which can make them nice and loud. So just know what you're plugging your headphones into before you buy a pair. Now, for you producers just starting out, a really good budget-friendly choice for flat frequency headphones is the Audio-Technica ATH M30X. This was the first pair of headphones I got as a producer. Solid build quality, and they lasted me years. The only reason why I switched is because one of the dogs got hold of them and broke it. But yeah, they've got really good sound quality, and they're only about $50-$60. So yeah, nice and cheap. Now, at the moment, I'm alternating between 2 pairs of headphones. I use the Bayer Dynamics DT770 Pro. I have these for a long time, and I just really like using these for mixing. And then I've also got this pair of headphones, which is the III TMA2 Studio Wireless Plus headphones, which are really awesome for recording because they're wireless, which means I can kind of move freely around. And I've got really low latency, which is a bonus. And they also double as Bluetooth headphones as well, which is another bonus. So yeah, that's essential number 3, a good solid pair of headphones. Number 4 on the list is an audio interface. To the uninitiated, an audio interface is just a piece piece of gear that allows you to expand your studio setup. It lets you hook up things like your mics, multiple headphones, studio monitor speakers too. Plus, if you're working on an older computer and you're dealing with latency issues, so you're trying to play the keys and it's just a nasty delay, then an audio interface is going to solve that problem for you as well. Now, since you'll be using an audio interface most of the time, then honestly, it's a good idea to just invest in one that has the best quality that you can afford. It's best to do it this way because otherwise you'll just end up buying a cheap budget one that you'll outgrow over time and you'll just have to upgrade anyway. Me personally, I've used a bunch of different interfaces from a whole bunch of different price ranges, and I've got 2 recommendations that's worked really well for me. The first one is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Super simple, super reliable, and you just get a nice clean sound out of it. It's a nice upgrade over the Scarlett Solo because it has 2 inputs as opposed to 1, which is kind of nice because you can hook your mic up, just leave it plugged in, and then whenever you want to hook something else up like a second mic or just start recording some electric guitar, then you've got that extra input to do it. It's just a bit more convenient. And yeah, as with most audio interfaces, it's got a port for your headphones, and then around the back it's got inputs for your studio monitor speakers. I don't actually have this anymore. I had it for about 2 years. It served me well, but then it kind of broke on me, so I had to switch to a different one. Number 2 is the Lewitt Connect 6. This is the interface that I'm currently using. It's fairly similar to the Focusrite where you've got 2 inputs, but the good thing about this one is it's got 2 headphone ports, which is really handy if you're recording another artist or you're just collabing with another producer and you don't want it to be too loud. Both of these options are really good. They give you a really good sound and they give you that flexibility to expand your setup further down the line. Now let's move on to number 5 on the list, which is having good sounds, not VSTs. Now this one might be a little bit controversial since, I mean, I do myself have a big collection of VSTs that I've built up over the years. However, when I first started doing music production back in 2013, 2014, there just wasn't the same options for affordable, high quality sounds like sample packs, one-shot kits and stuff like that than there is in 2024. Basically back then, the only option was to use VSTs. Fast forward to 2024 and it's never been easier to get your hands on really great sounds at a fraction of the cost. You've got guys in the YouTube producer community like myself who are dropping kits very regularly. Things like drum kits, MIDI kits, one-shot kits, preset kits, accent kits, phrase kits, loop kits, you name it, you can get it. And then there's big companies like Splice where you pay a membership and then you've instantly got access to hundreds and thousands of real good high quality samples too. Free websites like Looperman where you've got a whole bunch of samples to choose from, or you can even just sample straight from YouTube if you wanted to. So yeah man, if you're just starting out and you're kind of working on a tight budget, then there's a lot more viable options these days as opposed to having to spend a lot of money on these heavy duty, heavy CPU VSTs. Trust me, I do get that it's appealing to get a nice shiny brand new VST from time to time, and don't get me wrong, they do have their own benefits and they are great to have. However, you're going to save a whole bunch of storage, a whole bunch of CPU and a whole bunch of money just by starting off with things like sample packs, one-shot kits, preset kits, etc, etc. And a little pro tip, if you want the best sounds, then head over to prodllb.com. Got some really good sounds on there. But yeah, now once you've got these things in place, then you should have a real solid foundation to go out there and start producing some bangers. Couple side tips: if you want to go ahead and start recording your own instruments or your own vocals, then at some point it's worth investing in a condenser microphone. I'm currently using the Lewitt 440 Pure, a real solid mic, and they do actually offer a cheaper version of this one. It's called the 240 Pro, which I have used in a different studio and sounded great. And lastly, if you want to get a bit more creative on the producing side, then a MIDI keyboard would be a great thing to add to your setup. There's an absolute ton to choose from, but to keep this simple, get one with good keys, drum pads, and a pitch and mod wheel, and you'll be good to go. Again, huge thanks to FlexiSpot for sending me out the C7 chair. As I mentioned earlier, you can save a lot of money on this chair because they've got a Black Friday sale coming up real soon, and you can also get an additional $50 off this chair as well just by using this code at checkout. I'll leave it in the description if you want to copy and paste it. Now, if you want to get a full studio tour, a full sort of tour of my setup from 2022, which honestly hasn't changed a lot since then check out this video right here. Peace.